The Arkons were caught off guard by the human strike. For centuries, their fleets had been the uncontested masters of the galaxy. Their tactics were precise, their warships vast and imposing. The sudden and unprovoked strike sent ripples of panic through their command centers. Admiral Vraxis Arkon, the ruthless leader of the Arkon fleet in the region, quickly ordered his ships into defensive formations. His immediate response was to unleash a brutal counterattack, sending waves of plasma torpedoes and missile barges toward the advancing human ships. However, the moment these projectiles crossed the line of fire, the Faith engines activated again, distorting space. The plasma torpedoes bent mid-flight, warping around human ships and colliding with Arkon vessels instead. It was an attack that defied logic, and for the first time in Arkon history, they found themselves outmaneuvered. Arkon warships, designed to be sleek and efficient in combat, now found themselves facing an enemy who seemed to dance through space, exploiting every flaw in their highly prioritized formations. General Maxen's fleet struck with deadly force, despite being outnumbered. His flagship, the Aegis of Hope, became the core of the attack, its Faith engine distorting space around it and allowing it to stay one step ahead of the Arkons. The Aegis took out several key Arkon warships with pinpoint accuracy, striking their engines with weapons that twisted space itself, making their systems collapse on impact. The human vessels, once considered inferior, now moved with unprecedented speed and agility. Their Faith engines allowed them to predict the movements of enemy ships, exploiting weaknesses in the Arkons' defenses. The once great Arkon fleet struggled to keep up with humanity's unpredictable assault. The Arkons retaliated fiercely, using all of their firepower in an attempt to destroy the humans' new warships. But every attack seemed to backfire. The power of humanity's belief, channeled through the Faith engines, turned the tide. The turning point. The battle reached its zenith when General Maxen ordered his fleet to target the Arkon 5 Central Refinery, the heart of the Arkons' Promethium supply. The refinery was heavily defended, with massive fortifications protecting it from any form of assault. But Maxen's plan was bold. He sent his fastest ships to penetrate the defenses, using the Faith engines to create distortions in the asteroid field around the refinery. At the same time, the main fleet engaged the Arkons head-on, creating a diversion. As Arkon forces focused their attention on the main assault, the stealth ships using the Faith engines broke through the defenses, their attack made almost impossible to predict. The refinery exploded in a massive burst of energy, wiping out the Arkons' primary resource supply in a single strike. Arkon reaction. The Arkons were thrown into disarray. Their most crucial resource was gone, and their fleets were scattered. Admiral Vraxis Arkon, enraged, ordered a full retreat, but the damage was done. The Aegis of Hope and the rest of humanity's fleet followed up, using their warping tactics to pursue the retreating Arkon forces. The Arkons, now vulnerable, were forced to leave the battlefield in shambles, their once mighty warships limping away in defeat. Humanity, with its Faith engines and newfound unity, had struck a crippling blow to the Arkon Imperium. Aftermath and human victory. In the aftermath, General Maxen's fleet had succeeded in its objective. Arkon 5 had been crippled, and the Arkons were left scrambling to recover from their first real defeat in centuries. The human fleet had lost ships, but their victory was undeniable. The galaxy, which had once dismissed humanity as insignificant, now saw them in a new light. The Arkons, who had once believed their superiority was unassailable, now knew that humanity was a force to be reckoned with. In the quiet aftermath of the battle, General Maxen stood aboard the Aegis of Hope, looking out at the stars. "We've taken the first step," he said softly, his voice heavy with the weight of what had just been achieved. "But the war is far from over, and we will never stop fighting." This was humanity's first taste of victory, an attack that changed the course of the war and perhaps the fate of the galaxy. The humans had proved they could fight on their terms, in ways their enemies could never have predicted. The first counterattack had been a success, but it was only the beginning of their eternal conquest. The camera slowly zooms in on General Maxen, standing at the heart of the command bridge of the Aegis of Hope, his face illuminated by the glow of the stars outside. His expression is resolute, yet there's an unmistakable weight in his eyes. Around him, officers and strategists monitor the fleet's movements. The vastness of space lies before them, and the tension is palpable. General Maxen softly, "We won the first battle, but the war is far from over. The Arkons won't retreat quietly." His voice is calm, but there's an undeniable resolve. The camera shifts to the view outside. Human warships moving in perfect synchronization, their faith engines at full power. Humanity's fleet advances toward the heart of the Arkon Imperium's war machine. Their homeworld, the jewel of their empire, Arkon Prime. The Arkons, stunned by the loss of Arkon 5 and their Prometheum resources, are struggling to regroup. General Maxen's voice crackles over the comms to his fleet. General Maxen, commanding, "Prepare for the final phase. No mercy. The Arkons must know the price of their arrogance." The camera pans across the Arkon homeworld, a vast golden planet, its sprawling cities and towering spires a testament to its former glory. The Arkons had always believed themselves invincible, but as humanity's fleet emerges from the shadows of space, that belief begins to crumble. General Maxen's fleet approaches, with each ship brimming with the power of their faith engines, which twist the very fabric of space around them. The Arkons, in full desperation, launch their last-ditch defensive effort, a wall of plasma torpedoes and energy bursts designed to annihilate the human fleet. But humanity's ships, moving with eerie grace, shift through space as if they were never there, the faith engines bending space in unpredictable ways. The plasma torpedoes veer off course, crashing into each other or spiraling into the void. Admiral Vraxis Arkon, his command center now falling apart around him, watches in horror as his fleet is decimated. He tries to issue orders, but his voice falters. Admiral Vraxis Arkon, desperate, "Retreat! All ships, fall back!" But it's too late. The human fleet, now in full control, locks onto the remaining Arkon warships with unrelenting precision. Every remaining Arkon ship is picked off one by one, their shields collapsing under the combined might of the faith engines. Plasma storms, once the Arkon's pride, are turned back upon them. The Arkon flagship, the Vanguard, a once mighty symbol of the Arkon Empire, disintegrates under the weight of humanity's final assault. The flagship's shattered pieces drift into space, leaving nothing but the cold, dark emptiness. The human fleet floats above the ashes of Arkon Prime, victorious, but at a great cost. The screen shows the aftermath, the shattered remnants of the Arkon Empire, their capital now a barren wasteland, their fleets in ruins. General stands on the bridge of the Aegis of Hope, looking out at the devastation. Her face is stoic, though there's an unmistakable weight in her eyes. General, reflecting, "We've destroyed their empire. But this is not a victory to be celebrated. We fought to survive, not to destroy." She pauses for a moment, her gaze focused on the stars ahead. General softly, "We did what we had to. The Arkons thought they were invincible. They believed they could crush us, but they underestimated the power of humanity's will. Now, the galaxy knows what happens when you force us to fight." Back on Earth, Void Priest Dr. Marion Kren stands before an assembly of humans, their faces illuminated by the glow of the faith engines. Dr. Kren, serene yet firm. This was not just a war, it was a test of humanity's spirit. We were pushed to the edge, and we proved that we would not bend, we would not break. We were the architects of our own fate, and we shattered the chains that sought to bind us. The camera pulls back to reveal a galaxy on the brink of change, the once invincible Arkon Empire, now a distant memory. Humanity stands at the precipice of a new era, their victory echoing across the stars. The Arkons are no more. Their empire is fallen, their fleets reduced to ash. And yet, in the wake of their destruction, a new question arises. What happens when a species chooses to fight not for power, but for survival? The galaxy will forever remember the day humanity showed that even the smallest of lights can burn the brightest in the face of the darkest void.